So I think I'm gonna need some help from you all in regards to this last video in this series. The girl on this screen, her name is Anna, and she's recently shut her page down on TikTok after making a video about her best friend who sexually assaulted her. Now, on one hand, I want to call her a pikme, but then on the other hand, she is still a victim of violence, and I don't feel that calling her a pikme is appropriate. But I need your help because this is a situation where I always talk about how Black women, when it comes to trans ideology and the discussion surrounding gender, they're not really allies. If anything, they're just petrified of what the community will do to them if they do, start to critique gender theory. So this girl, her name is Anna. I think her old page, she changed the name, then she went into hiding because after she made this video, she was attacked by the trans, rights activists on TikTok. She was attacked because she told her story about what happened to her. So because she made her page private and she took it down, it leaked over into the TERF community on Twitter, and then it leaked over into Tumblr. And all of the, I guess, TERFs or radical feminists are talking about what happened to her. But what's so crazy about it is she's not a radical feminist. If anything, she's a supporter of, the trans-identified male. She is a supporter of gender theory. She is, she's one of those advocates for, the men in dresses. And she claims that, trans women are women and all of this other stuff. And another thing is she identifies as a lesbian. So here is the backstory, and this is what's on Tumblr, because she's recently, because of all of the attacks that she's getting, she recently made her page private. But before she made her page private, this was the backstory, and I'm just going to read it to you. It says, a trans-identified male raped a lesbian TikToker who was his best friend and who did a lot for the transgendered community. And the transgendered community, because she dared, said, that she wasn't attracted to men and she didn't like dick, they decided to attack her. And they all attacked her so bad that she made her page private. And so the person who put this on Tumblr wrote, that's what all trans-identified males are like. MRAs who want to correctively rape lesbians into sucking their porn sticks. Don't let anyone ever convince you otherwise. Don't let them get near you. Don't let them get in near our women's spaces. So I wanted to call her a pikme. And the reason why I wanted to call her a pikme is because this person, a trans-identified male who was her best friend, raped her. And instead of her going to the police and reporting this crime against her own body, she decided that she didn't want to press charges because the trans-identified male is of color and would be at risk for discrimination. So let me just read you the text messages that he sent her. And this is really bad. I didn't know what else to I'm just so conflicted about this whole scenario. I'm so conflicted about the whole thing because when you read the text messages are gross. And the text messages are basically him saying that, well, I didn't rape you, right? I can't rape you because I'm a woman. And you have to acknowledge that some women are born with a penis. And a woman like myself who is born with a penis, I can't rape you. And she's like, yeah, I get it. And the entire discussion between the two is him convincing her that what happened to her was not rape because he's a woman. And then I think he kind of coerced her to take the video down and to acknowledge the fact that, no, I didn't rape you, because a lesbian can't rape another lesbian. And just because I have a penis doesn't mean that, I'm not a woman like you are. And she's second guessing herself in the text messages. She's going back and forth. And instead of this, I just wanted to read some of the comments, right? And because everyone is looking for her. Everyone is trying to see the follow-up to what happened, and she shut down. And she shut down because of the trans rights activists. Because if you read the comment section, and some people posted some of the comments, and all of the comments were from trans identified males shaming her from making the video about her sexual assault. Every single last one of them in that comment section were saying that you're not a real ally. How dare you expose your best friend this way? And so on and so forth. So I really need help, because I don't know if she's a pikme, or if not. I want to call her a pikme because I'm thinking that if this were another person who didn't identify as trans who did this to her, she would report them to the police. But because a person puts on a dress and claims to be a woman, she in her brain says that, no, this person is marginalized just like myself, and I shouldn't report this crime. Is everyone understanding this? I really need help to kind of figure out what to label this girl. I only know that I do feel really bad for her, and I feel like this is what I say when I talk about Black women and their allyship to the trans community. A lot of the times, it's not allyship, it's fear. And because she won't report this person, this guy who did this to her, you can tell that she's scared. And even the response to some of the comments that she was getting, she's petrified to kind of stick up for herself. So do you guys think that she's a pikme, or do you think that she's a victim and she's just scared? Because either or, I support her. I don't support her support of that community at all. No, because those are fucking men. I don't care if they put a dress on. I don't care if they get a surgery. I don't care if they've been on hormones since God sent fake Moses. I don't give a shit. They're still men. They still think like men. And a lot of them, and we said this before, 97% of them still have their penises. And why would you get rid of your penis after puberty? It's been the organ that's given you so much pleasure. A lot of men can't part with it. And a lot of them want women to accept that, no, we're women. We just have dicks and we want you to suck them. And they're mad at women when they don't want to do so. So what would you call this girl? Would you say that she's a pikme, or would you say that she's in fear of her life and in fear of losing community? Because a lot of the times when you do see Black women who link up with the trans community, that's the only community they have. And I think that the community, I said this before, that community loves Black women because they allow themselves to, what I said this before, that the trans-identified male loves Black women because he can use her to weaponize her against other women who are not Black. And this is what men do. They weaponize two groups of women against each other so that the woman who is most marginalized, the Black woman, can have the last say on who's a racist, who's a bigot, so on and so forth. And men know what they're doing. They weaponize and they pit women against each other all the time. And the trans-identified male is no different. He loves to be in the middle of chaos. He loves to be in the middle of drama. He loves to be in the middle of shit because he's a man, right? We know this for sure. So I'd want to know what you all think about this. I just want to know what you think, because I'm so conflicted. But this whole series is about the pikme, and I said that the pikme is very dangerous. But in this case, if she is a pikme, she's dangerous to herself. What if this trans-identified male does this to another lesbian? Then what happens next? Because she's not reporting it, and the next lesbian who he's convinced that he's a woman won't report it either. Then he goes around raping lesbians because everyone is scared of him, and they're scared of what the community may say when they do report that something bad happened to them. This is disgusting, and it's wrong. I feel so sorry for this girl. Her face, when she starts crying, my heart just breaks for her. But at the same time, it's kind of like, wake up. Wake up. You're not woke because you support them. If anything, you're just a punk because you're listening to a man with a dick tell you that he's a woman. And he's convincing her that, just because I have a penis doesn't make me a man. I'm not a man. I just have a girl dick. I have a she-miss, not a penis, but a she-miss. Do you hear the nonsense? I have the video of this girl being assaulted, and she's crying in it. and it's very graphic, and I don't think that I can play it on YouTube, but what I can do is give you a synopsis of what happens, right? So she's this young Black lesbian, very supportive of the trans community. She helped her best friend, the person in question, get on hormones and do all of these things according to her. So she says, and this is the night of the assault. I guess they're sitting in a car together, and they're talking about whatever, and it comes up, you know, sexuality and her being a lesbian, and why doesn't this Black girl who is a lesbian consider this trans-identified male a lesbian? And the entire time in her video, she says that she's reaffirming him, and she's basically saying, no, I do see you as a trans lesbian. I do see you as a trans woman. I do see you as a trans woman. I respect you. I validate you. So the trans-identified male then, I guess he's in the driver's seat, and she wants to get out of the car because she's saying the conversation is getting a little sticky and I don't want to continue with this conversation. Just let me, you know, get out of the car. So the trans-identified male then lifts his body up and pulls his pants down and whips his penis out. So he whips his penis out and he asks her, why don't you like this? Why don't you consider this a woman's body part? All of these questions, all of these weird questions that he's asking her. And the entire time that she's telling this story on TikTok, she's referring to this man who sexually assaulted her as she. Do you see the brain programming that I spoke about before and what's happening to young lesbian women, especially when they don't have community outside of the trans-identified male? So back to the story, this trans-identified male is in the car with his dick out, and she's upset. She's clearly upset because she's saying, why are you doing that? We're friends, right? Because in her head, she believes that the trans-identified male is a woman just like her. And she's forgetting that at the end of the day, this is a male. So then the trans-identified male starts to pleasure himself in the front seat with her while she's sitting there. And she starts to yell, and she says in the video that the trans-identified male then takes out a pocket knife and he puts it to her chin and he tells her to shut the fuck up and stop yelling. And the entire time that she's telling this story, she's saying, well, no, she is doing this. She took out her penis and she started to pleasure herself. Then it doesn't even stop there. The trans-identified male then takes her hand and put her hand on his penis. And then she starts to cry in the video. She starts to cry in the video, and she's saying that she doesn't want this video to be used or to be an excuse for anyone being transphobic. He basically bullied her to give him a hand job under the guise of, I am a woman too. Do you see what I'm talking about when I talk about the trans-identified male? So I don't know if, again, she's a pikme, because this series is called The Dangerous Pikme. But in this case, like I said before, she's a danger to herself, because what she allowed to happen to herself because of another person's ideology, another man's ideology at that. Gender ideology comes from men. Gender ideology comes from men. And it serves men to present themselves as women, especially if they want to get laid. So in my opinion, this trans-identified male has been plotting the scenario with this girl. He knew that she's supportive. He knew that she's not mentally strong, and he knew that she wouldn't stick up for herself in a situation like this. So she basically gave him a hand job. And then she goes to TikTok because again, and the reason why I'm thinking that she goes to TikTok is because she doesn't really have community. If you run to TikTok to cry and tell people about what happened to you, you obviously don't have a community of family and friends around you who you can go and tell this story to. So this happens to her, and she runs to TikTok, and what happened? The trans right activists, they light her on fire in the comment section. I'm so mad for this girl. I can't even tell you how mad I am for her. Like listening to the story and listening to how she is so apologetic. She is so apologetic. And you know what's really fucked up? She may see this video and then hate me because I'm making a video in her defense. I'm making a video about, how wrong it is that Black women support gender ideology and how dangerous it is for lesbians to be around the trans-identified male, because the trans-identified male, and we see this in story after story after story, they will bully the young lesbian to sleep with them. And we see this all the time. And you know what happens if the lesbian who is not attracted to the trans-identified male says no? She's considered a bigot. She's ostracized from the entire community, all because he wants to get his dick wet. She can hate me all she wants. This should be her peak trans. It really should be her peak trans. I'm so upset for her. So upset for her. And I just have to add this because if you listen to the text messages that I'm going to read to you, he has this play up of, I just want to make sure that you're not a dangerous person to me and the trans community. I just want to make sure that you're not dangerous and you're spilling out, dangerous rhetoric about trans-identified people, trans-identified males. And when you hear her story in its entirety, this is a person who put a knife to her face and then forced her hands on his genitalia after he whipped it out and sexually assaulted her. And he wants to make sure that she's not the dangerous one. This is male behavior at play right now. This is men. Men will gaslight and lie to you. And you see this in 4K with this scenario, this situation. And she goes on to say, I don't want for people to see my story and then be transphobic. No, sis, I hope that you're transphobic now after what happened to you. I hope that you've peaked after you saw what happened to you. How supportive can you be? Does he want you to lay on your back and open up your legs to show you how supportive he is of his transgenderism? This is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous, and this is so fucked up. And for some reason, I know that, if this comes out and she ever sees this, she's going to look at women who are defending her and say, oh, no, you ladies are TERFs. You ladies are transphobic. She was assaulted. She was assaulted by a little shit who pulled out his penis and made her touch it and then put a knife to her cheek. And he wants to ensure that she's not dangerous. And you know what's so funny? Because if you do listen to her content, there's a video that she made and she speaks about how it's okay for lesbians to not be attracted or not to like dick. And she got a lot of flack for that on TikTok. A lot of people came for her because they said things like, well, how can you call yourself a lesbian and you're not attracted to all women? All women don't have the same body parts. Do you hear the nonsense? All women don't have the same body parts. This is what they're convincing this young girl, this young lesbian, that, yeah, there's some women who are born with dicks. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think in my little spidey senses are telling me, I think that this person did this to her because of her views on lesbian sexuality. I think that this was her punishment, but he's not going to spill it to her as her punishment. What he's going to do, he's going to do it to her, make her feel like shit and have her apologize. This is abuse. This is abuse. This is a young Black lesbian girl who got abused and no one is making a stink about it. I'm going to let you listen to the text messages so you can further see for yourself how awful this is. How awful. So I found the text messages that she posted on her page, and this is all over Tumblr. This is all over Twitter. Everyone is talking about this. And I think that she's really isolated right now, and she's ostracized because of the community and all of the men surrounding her and telling her that, she was wrong for telling anyone about this attack. Also, what's is worth mentioning is that you don't hear anyone in the trans community, especially with trans identified males, talking about this assault. You don't hear them talking about her being assaulted, her being a lesbian. You hear nothing of it. It's complete radio silence, and she's alone. I am thinking that she's alone. She's by herself. She doesn't have community outside of all of these men in dresses who probably want to sleep with her. And she's alone. And because she's so bullied by the community, because she knows the power behind the men in this community, she's silent and she's scared. That's just my opinion. This is why I didn't want to give her the pick me label so readily. I wanted to kind of let the audience decide what you think she is. I say it's kind of both, even though she is a victim. She is also a pick me for deciding to acknowledge the fact that, yes, this happened to her, but no, it's not really a crime because the person that did it to her is a woman, when we all know that the person that committed this crime against her is a biological male. So here are some of the text messages. This is what he wrote to her. It says, "Why would you block my number? I had to find a way to reach you so that we could discuss everything." And she wrote, "I don't think we have anything else to talk about, honestly. I apologize for how I communicated and for ever having the videos online, but I'm sure our friendship, but I'm not sure, I'm sorry, our friendship can survive this." Then he wrote, "You aren't sure," in capital letters. "I had to see every video made about you, your horrible ideas about trans women, but you aren't sure we can be friends. I'm trying to give you a chance to apologize." Listen to the audacity. This trans-identified male raped her, and he's contacting her so that she can apologize for exposing what happened to her. Do you see the audacity with these men? Do you see the audacity? And it's so odd that she is so apologetic. And this is why I get so upset, because I know that if another Black woman did something to her less than this, she would take it to the Supreme Court. But because it is a Black male, well, I'm assuming that it's a Black male because there's another comment that I read that, she didn't really want to go to the police because this is a person of color who did this to her. It has to be a Black male, or it has to be, whatever it is. If it were a woman who did something to her or less than what happened to her from this male, she would go and make a big deal about it. But because it is a male, for some reason, she doesn't want to prosecute or go, report him. And then she wrote again, "I apologize before things went left yesterday. I don't know what else I can say." You can say, this is his response, you can say that you're not a TERF anymore. You see me as a woman. You respect my womanhood. You don't say people like that what I have aren't, and then it cuts off and it says people that like what I have aren't lesbians, because I guess he's talking about this penis. "I want you to be better for me and other trans people. Be a real ally. Unlearn your elementary ideas about sexuality and stop invalidating." He also wrote, "I want to make sure that you aren't one of those dangerous people that risk trans women's lives because they don't want to do work to unlearn their repulsion. Women can have different body parts. If you like women, you shouldn't say our body parts are for men." Are you all listening to this? This is the Twilight Zone. This is the fucking Twilight Zone. Listen to this. "I'm a woman. Do you get that now?" And then I think someone blocked this out. It says, "Tell me you get that now." Like he's forcing her to validate him. And this is why I have to call her a pick me, because it's kind of like you were assaulted. Someone hurt you, dude. Someone hurt you. And instead of you taking the blinders off of your eyes and saying that a man assaulted me, you're apologizing to a man who assaulted you because he now identifies as a woman. And he's telling you nonsense about how his penis is a girl penis. And should it be? I'm just so upset about this entire thing. I don't know what else to say. I would love to reach out to her. I don't want her to ever come across this video and think that this video is an attack. If anything, he's the asshole who hurt her. And he's the asshole who did something wrong to her. And he's the asshole who's a piece of shit for gaslighting her and making her think that, women can be born with penises too. No, they cannot. No, they cannot. He is a biological male and she is not. And she was assaulted. She was raped. She was hurt. And I don't know. I'm ending this series, the Pick Me series, with her because, but I'm really upset about it. When I look at her face and her, so upset, it really makes me like, I want to punch the wall for her because I'm just like, how can you let that happen? And this is the reason why these trans-identified males do not belong in the spaces of women. They do not belong around lesbians. They are not lesbians. They identify as lesbians because they want access to women. They want to do these things to women. And lesbians, they're forcing a lot of lesbians to go against what they can see by claiming that they're women as well. This is gaslighting. These are lies. These are not women. If you are a lesbian, you will not be attracted to a trans-identified male. I don't care what he did to his body, but we said this before, 97% of them are not getting rid of their penis. They're not. It's a source of pleasure for them. If anything, they want to keep it and they want you to enjoy it because they want to convince you that it's a girl's body part. It's not. It's a man's body part. It's a man's body part. But get into the comments section. Let me know what you think. I don't know what to say about this young girl. And she's such a pretty girl. Like if you watch the rest of her videos, she's such a pretty girl. And to see her, look at her face, look at her eyes. She looks like she's in such pain. And I just can't believe that happened to her. Yeah, I can't believe that happened to her, and I can't believe that the trans rights activists are treating her this way on TikTok. All of them are canceling her, they're coming for her, they're doxing her, they're in the comment section attacking her. What is that about? If she doesn't peak trans after this, I don't know what will make her peak trans. I hope this is her peaking moment, though. I hope she can open her eyes and see that she doesn't deserve to be treated like this, that there are lesbians out there who will not harm her, and they're actual women. They were born women, born girls. They survived girlhood. They didn't pass puberty as a male and then one day decided to put on a dress because, it served them to kind of get laid. And that's what a lot of this is what you see these trans-identified males doing. They can't really get laid on their own, so what are they doing? They're putting on a dress and invading the spaces of lesbians to have access to lesbians and then bullying them and saying that, well, if you don't sleep with us, then you're a TERF. You're transphobic if you don't acknowledge us, if you invalidate us, you're dangerous. They love to throw that danger. Everything with them is death and danger. And if you don't acknowledge us, you're dangerous to us. It's all fucking bullshit. It's all bullshit. And it's good to see that more and more women are peaking trans. Right? But yeah. Get into the comments, man. Yeah.